It's been a whole month since I've done a video and I wanted to come back with a big one. So today, I'll be talking about a group of people that may very well be the greatest villains the Black Clover manga has ever had so far. If you're an anime only, you're not going to know about these guys for a very, very long time for a number of reasons. There's a lot going on with the anime at the moment, and I'll make sure to talk about it more in-depth in this video, because it actually does relate to the topic at hand, but for now, I'm just gonna go ahead and get down to the point. The Dark Triad are the best villains Black Clover has to offer so far. They're also currently my favorite villains in Black Clover, and it may seem a little early to be saying all this because they were just introduced, properly anyway, 16 chapters ago. But that just goes to show how amazing they are as antagonists. We were introduced to who we now know as Zenon 21 chapters ago in chapter 227, but we didn't know anything about him other than the fact that he's capable of massacring an entire army of diamond soldiers all on his own, which isn't a big thing at all. Funnily enough, we all thought he was possessed by Magicula because they were being so hyped up, like they were this huge threat said to be stronger than Zagred, the word soul devil, and then we saw someone as strong as Zenon with a spade on their back, and we had heard from Julius that the Spade Kingdom is known for its affiliation with devils. I talked quite a bit about how we knew that and how we set it up in the last video. You can check it out if you want when you're done watching this, or right now, or really whenever you want. Link is in the pinned comment. Go check it out. Anyway, so even without fully understanding even 1/3 of the Triad, or even knowing that they were a Triad, we already knew we had one seriously powerful new villain on our hands, one that won't be defeated so easily. Now, one point you could make is that we also didn't understand Patry, or Licht at the time, but knew he was strong. And that's true, but we also had a fully powered Julius when he was introduced, and we found out right away that Julius could injure him. So right off the bat, that made him a much less initially intimidating villain than any member of the Dark Triad, because we knew the Clover Kingdom had people that could take him out, especially after seeing the fight he had with Yami, where he only escaped because the third eye sealed his magic and retreated with him, and then the one he had later on with Julius, where he only won because Julius had to protect his kingdom. Not only do we not have a fully powered Julius anymore, but we also don't know of any way of damaging them, other than maybe Yami's magic, as we saw in chapter 245 when he was able to slash Dante, but even then, just a chapter later, he was able to heal his wounds all on his own. Plus, Dante wasn't going all out. So for all we know, Yami could totally not stand a chance against any member of the Triad at 100%, let alone all three together. Yami is currently the strongest mage in the Clover Kingdom as far as we know, so if not even he stands a chance against them, then the way things stand, the Triad is basically unbeatable. Their only weakness, if any, is the fact that they all use devils to give them the advantage in battle. And although the only mages that can defeat devils are arcane stage mages, such as Sekre, Asta, Vanessa, and apparently Gray, there are, in fact, mages that are capable of defeating them. And on top of that, Asta has the anti-magic devil, which just might, and I cannot stress this enough, might stand a chance against the other devils if at 100% capacity. However, even then, it's not entirely likely because we hear from Dante's devil, Lucifero, in chapter 243 that the anti-magic devil is probably a low-class nobody because the only high-ranking devil he knew had entered this world was Zagred. But I mean, we all know what happened to him, right? So, if Zagred was considered by Lucifero to be a high-ranking devil and Asta was able to defeat him, albeit with a lot of help, then there just may be the slightest, microscopic chance that he, along with the help of the strongest characters in the verse, could beat the Triad at their strongest. Now, this is all fine and dandy, but just because a villain, or in this case a group of villains, is strong doesn't automatically mean they're good. People have criticized the Elf arc for ending kinda quickly after Zagred makes his appearance, and that's only proven even even more to be true in the anime because he was introduced in episode 115 and defeated just 4 episodes later in episode 119, which is like 15 to 16 chapters in the manga, and the arc ended like the episode after that. Because of this, people say that he's a bad villain outside of the big bad plot twist of him being behind literally everything going on. But it's undeniable that he was a really strong enemy, and we really didn't know how he was gonna be beaten. Personally, I don't think Zagred's a bad villain. I liked him in the manga, and although we didn't get him for very long, I enjoyed him in the anime as well. But as a villain, I can definitely agree he's nowhere near as good or intriguing as the Dark Triad. Now, the Triad, at their most powerful, is definitely stronger than Zagred, especially together. But even more than that, they're far more interesting because they all have their own personalities and ideologies, and they all have different kinds of magic, and through them, we seem to be learning more about the devil race as a whole, as well as the history behind characters we've known little about for the entirety of the manga so far. The best 2 examples of this can be found in chapters 233 through 234, as well as 238 and 242, where we start to learn about the pasts of both Asta and Yuno. In chapters 233, 234, and 238, we discover that Yuno is not only royalty, but the prince of the Spade Nation. To prove this to Yuno, Ralph uses his magic to show him his past, and it's there that we discover the Dark Triad are responsible for the death of Yuno's parents, and that Ralph's father, a member of the Royal Guard responsible for protecting Yuno's family, was the one who brought Yuno to Hodge Village 15 to 16 years ago. We also find out in chapter 242 that Asta's mom was stabbed through the chest when she died, because he had a memory of her after seeing Ghost suffer the same injury. This, of course, was before he unleashed his berserker form, and in the chapter after that, we learn a lot about the devil race, like the fact that there's a ranking system among them, and that devils like Magicula, Lucifero, and Zagred are all high-ranking devils, while the anti-magic devil may be a low-ranking commoner, kinda like Asta, as I mentioned before. We also learned that it's likely the devils are plotting something behind the backs of the Triad, because otherwise they would have taken over their bodies already. And then, in chapter 246, we learn the Triad's whole goal, which is to gather up the arcane mages, a user of dark magic and a user of world tree magic, to let the devils into this world. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the Dark Triad is answering the really big and important questions, the ones we all want answered. They're a big reason why this time skip and Shippuden-ish transition from the last saga to the current one is already showing a lot more promise than Part 1 Black Clover ever did. Not to say it was ever bad, I loved every bit of it, but this is truly, absolutely on a different level altogether, and the Triad are responsible for a really good chunk of that. But even with all that aside, my favorite thing about their inclusion in the story is that they've heavily affected the lives of our main 3 characters, Asta, Yuno, and Noelle. The Triad, then known as the Sagratis siblings, killed Yuno's family and many others in the Spade Kingdom before taking over. Along the way, they also seemingly killed Asta's mother and cursed Noelle's. It's also possible that both Asta and Noelle's fathers were killed in this attack. Not only that, but they're returning to wreak even more havoc on their lives, with Zenon having killed half of the Golden Dawn and kidnapping their captain, and for all we know, Dante could succeed in what he came to do and incapacitate Yami so he can capture him and take Vanessa and Gray as his women like he said he would. We also know Vanica pulled up to the Heart Kingdom as well with a bunch of Dark Disciples too, with the goal of killing Loro Petrica. Over the past 6 months, I'm sure Noelle and the Heart Queen have become close to a certain extent, and she's come to see her as something of a mentor. So if Vanica were to accomplish what she set out to do, I can imagine Noelle being livid, especially against the person with the devil who killed her mother and brought her so much suffering during her childhood. All these past connections to these 3 characters serve as great motivation to band together and form the opposition to the Dark Triad, the Light Triad! It's pretty obvious that this is what Tabata is trying to do, and it's only more obvious when we look at the art both he and Tatsuya Yoshihara have been doing, especially since we know they've been collaborating together on this anime original canon arc the anime is currently in. And for all we know, they could have talked about this concept and began to foreshadow it. If these 3 end up being the ones to defeat the Sagratis siblings, or even better, better the devils that possess them, it would be extremely fitting. Poetic even. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big ol' thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you're new and haven't done so yet, think about subscribing. Should you choose to do this, hitting the notification bell is also appreciated. Just saying. Also, I want to give a big thanks to Aaron for making this really awesome thumbnail. I don't know if I said your name right. I apologize, my man. I'm sorry. It's better than what I'm able to do, and he does great work in general. So if you need a thumbnail or a banner or whatever you end up needing, make sure you follow him and hit him up. And be sure to tell him Kaiba sent you. A link to his Twitter is in the description. And lastly, the thing I probably should have plugged first, my Patreon. If you'd like to financially contribute to the channel, you can do so by becoming a patron. And even if it's just $1, it's extremely appreciated. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. Woo! Man, did I do a lot of talking in this video. I know this is in the script, but seriously, I did so much talking. Holy crap. I gotta take a rest before I edit this, cause, whoa, that's gonna be a lot of work. But I will see you next time, as always. Bye-bye!